Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 6th and tonight's classic is Ju-On, The Grudge. Now when it came to Japanese horror movies, I basically had the choice between The Ring and The Grudge. I had already seen The Ring and I've heard The Grudge be called better and scarier, so I checked out The Grudge this year. And finally, we got a really good one. I liked this movie a lot. Very good, very scary. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. The Grudge was released in 2002 and directed by Takashi Shimizu. And the plot is that there is this house that has vengeful, angry spirits in it, and anybody who walks in will get killed by them. It's not even people who live there. They get people who just walk in for a few minutes and then leave, and the ghosts will follow them and kill them. The Grudge is not told linearly, and it doesn't really have a central plot or a main character. It's a series of vignettes about victims of the ghosts in the house. They kind of seem to go in a bit of a random order, but it's kind of arranged in a way so that it gets better and better and you learn more and more as you continue. I really like the way that the horror is done in this movie. There aren't really any jump scares. A lot of the horror in this is slower and creeping and building up the atmosphere for a big reveal. Again, not a jump scare, but a big reveal at the end, and then the character dies, and that's usually where the vignette that you're watching ends. A lot of the scares in this movie are pretty subtle, and one of them was so subtle that I didn't even notice it, and I had to have the person I was watching it with tell me about it. I think that this is a good thing because that means that even if you've seen it before, you could see something that you might have missed the first time you saw it. For most of the movie, there are two ghosts from the house, a little boy named Toshio and a woman named Kayako. And Kayako is just like Sadako from The Ring, the whole dirty white dress, the same pale skin, the same black hair falling all over her face. But this one, the main calling card I would say for her is the death rattle. Now, I don't think they actually explained why that is in the movie. I think I heard somewhere that she died by getting her throat stabbed, or maybe they did and I just didn't notice it, but it's really not that scary of a sound. It's just sort of oh, and that's not a scary noise, but whenever you hear it, you know that things are about to get really, really bad. One of the scariest things about this movie is that the ghosts don't even need their victims to be in the house. The ghosts will follow the person around and nowhere is safe once you've been marked. There are a lot of really clever scares in this movie, but one of my favorites is that there was a woman, I think her name was Hitomi. She visited the house because she had family in there, and she left, and she was only there for 30 minutes. And when she got back to her apartment building, she started experiencing paranormal activity. And one thing that you see happen is that she had a cell phone strap that was a tiny teddy bear, and it fell off her cell phone strap in the bathroom. She got scared and she had to run. And when she gets back to her apartment, she sees the strap is attached to her purse, which it definitely wasn't before. And later in bed, when she's freaking out, a bunch of other stuff has happened. All of a sudden, she pulls out her hand, and then she sees that the little teddy bear that she lost in another room is suddenly in her hand. Another thing I liked is same character Hitomi. She was in an elevator, and this one was made so that there's a window where you can see each floor as it comes by. And as it keeps going up, you keep seeing the little boy ghost just standing there in every single floor. So there's either multiple ones, or they can teleport instantly, or just something. I think something that would have been a little bit more effective in that case was if the boy started out on the other side of the room, and with each floor going up, he gets slightly closer to the window, and then right when it looks like he's about to come into the elevator, he disappears. I think I heard somewhere that they did that in the American remake of The Grudge. I thought that The Grudge was a very well done scary movie. In a lot of ways, there are parallels I can draw between The Grudge and The Ring. There is the same sort of cyclical nature of it, and of course, the ghosts look very similar. As from what I can tell, that's sort of a figure in Japanese horror, the girl with hair all over her eyes and face. But there are a lot of ways in which The Ring and The Grudge are different, and they give you different things. The Ring, a lot of it is the mystery, but with The Grudge, this is pure horror, and it's done very well. If you're looking for a really good spooky movie to watch this year, The Grudge still holds up very well. Alright, let's talk about some spoilers. In a lot of ways, the backstory of the house in The Grudge reminds me of the backstory of the house in the Amityville Horror, where the dad went crazy and killed the family, except in this case it was just the mother and the son, and those are the two ghosts. The girl with the hair all over her face and the little boy who's like... And the ghosts in this movie, they're not like transparent, they're just like people that are painted white all over, which I wasn't really a fan of when it comes to aesthetic, but I was getting what they were going at. In the beginning, it explains that this is what happens in Japanese folklore when people die with, like, unfinished business or, like, a lot of hatred in their heart. That's the reason why this movie is called The Grudge. Something else that's not said, but definitely implied, is that from the way that these vengeful ghosts are killing people, that will probably create more vengeful ghosts. So I can see that this problem would just keep getting bigger and bigger as it keeps spreading across a wider and wider area. The final vignette of the movie actually involves a character from the first one and one of the ones in the middle. Her name is Rika, I believe, and she is like a social worker who visits the house because there's an old woman on welfare there, and she experiences some stuff. And in one of the vignettes in the middle of the movie, you see her wake up to like turn to the side and see the boy ghost, and then there's literally the woman ghost up like above her bed, like looking down on her, and I assume that she died right after that because that's the point where that vignette ends. But later on in the movie you see her continuing, so I guess it was just something that scared her, and she keeps seeing the ghosts, and her friend ends up going to that house, or like she thinks that she goes to the house. There are some examples of the house like tricking people, like hearing voices that aren't there or seeing things that shouldn't be there. There was a point where a male detective character was in the house, and he sees his daughter, who at that point in the movie is a little girl, all grown up, and like they look at each other and they stare at each other, and she doesn't really acknowledge him, but it's something that's very eerie about it. And Rika gets back to the house, and she sees her friend being dragged up into the attic, and when she goes in, she's completely gone. There's a lot of scares like that in this movie, where you see something in one shot, and when the character turns to look, it's not there anymore. There was a scene where a character looks out through a peephole and sees one of their friends, and when they open the door, there's nobody there. And the guy was watching, my friend Caleb, when he was watching it with me, he said that means that she just let the ghost in, which I thought was kind of pretty impressive. But I don't know, these ghosts can kind of go anywhere and follow people anywhere, but they need to be let into people's houses. Kind of weird. But she sees the ghost, and there is a scene, the final main scare in the movie is that you see the woman with the hair all over her face like slowly crawl down the stairs on all fours, and that is done very well. Though I think that the best scene when it comes to horror was sort of like in the middle beginning of it. It was Hidemi's death. There was just so many things that keep coming back, or like just a lot of really good subtleties built up in that. But I do think that the final scare is done very well, and it ends with seeing the crime scene of the murder that started all of this. And you see Kayako, the name of the woman who was killed, like lying against the wall dead. And you see, it starts out as a still picture, and then you zoom in on it, and then you start seeing like a single tear of blood getting longer and longer. And I could see where this is coming. I was just waiting for her to open her eyes. And I thought her eyes were going to like flash open, or maybe there would be a jump scare, but they opened very slowly. And then you hear the death rattle, and the movie ends. The Grudge was a great horror movie. It was well done, well acted, well directed, and has a lot of really good elements of horror to it. If you're into the genre, I would recommend it highly. 2 thumbs up. Alright, I'll see y'all tomorrow.